Well, it's the same in the photography industry. Like you have a lot of photographers grumbling about these new people undercutting and all the rest of it. But do you know what? Like that's just life.
And I mean, if you're a videographer and you're worried about a 2 to 5 minute film taking business away from you, then I mean, I don't
bigger things to worry about.
You've got bigger things. Bigger things to worry about. Yeah. Make your product better or more unique, or make yourself stand out in the marketplace.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, the podcast for wedding creatives, where we sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry. We've got Carole-Ann Scott of Harper Scott Photo in the office today because we're talking everything fusion. We touched on this topic with David from Walnut Wasp, who runs a fusion workshop, and briefly addressed the concerns that some filmmakers have about the service. And for the record, we're all for fusion shooting, if it's improving the reputation of wedding films in the industry. But today, we don't want to get stuck in the weeds with this topic. We want to discuss how you can actually implement fusion into your workflow and what things photographers struggle with in video. This episode is designed for photographers out there who have seen both the pitfalls and promise of adding video into their service. It's also going to help those who feel negative about fusion and don't quite understand where this sort of product fits within the market, and how in actual fact fusion only ever makes wedding films better. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I'll get onto that a little bit later on the show. In the meantime, Greg, what are we drinking?
We are drinking the same coffee as the last episode, which is the 3FE.
That's right.
Because we're recording this a couple of days after the last recording, so we didn't get any new stuff in, unfortunately.
That's absolutely true. And how are you, Carole-Ann?
Very well. Very well. How are you?
Also very well.
That's
very
excellent.
well.
I'm very, very well because this is my third coffee of the day.
You must be buzzing.
Yeah,
you must be buzzing.
You're going to get a truly unfiltered insight into whatever's going on in my head, and I don't really know what that is yet.
Uh-oh.
So good luck.
That's exciting. I just want to get one thing straight. Obviously, I looked at your website because I hadn't looked at it since it got rebranded. It looks ace, but on your about page, it says, and I quote, "I'm a Scottish wedding photographer." Good start. "The cool kind, but I'm not cool, but my couples are. You are cool, so sharp."
I couldn't be further from cool. I wear a detachable hood.
Look, you are defining what it is to be you, and I think when you do that, you become more cool than what the meaning of cool is.
I feel like my life is a riot. I've got 3 preschoolers, and it just really feels like a whirlwind every single day. So I'm at the point where I don't even think about what I'm putting on in the morning. I generally just wear the same thing every single day.
Then how is it you look so good? What?
Because I think you're talking a load of rubbish.
Well, it's a podcast, no one knows.
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, how do you know what I'm wearing, people?
Why did you wear a ball gown to a podcast?
I know.
Oh, what?
I felt I had to make an effort, guys. Don't get out often these days.
You do have 3 kids, so it's kind of amazing that you are an amazing, talented photographer and you run your own business with 3 kids, and like half the time your partner's off to another place, right?
He travels a bit with work, and it varies. Can be 50% time, can be a lot less than that. It just depends. But, you know what? I don't even think about it. Just get on with it. And kind of like what Joe was saying in the your last podcast, I don't really think about what I'm doing beyond what it kind of suits me, and I just kind of say and do what's in my head and don't give it much thought beyond that and don't like overanalyze it. And yeah, that's where sometimes like things work well and things really, 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 really don't work well. So, and a lot of what I say probably won't make sense here today, people.
Well, it seems to be making sense so far. But
because you're doing most of the talking.
How are you enjoying the coffee? Is it all right?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Okay, good. Because I was worried I brewed this for you coming in at 10, but
Yeah,
I don't want to say you were
was late.
but you
Well,
were
I was
late.
late
But it's
because
fine. The parking. It's
no,
a thing
what happened
here.
was people, the automated things in the world don't seem to understand my letter A. And they always think it's E. And so I was trying to, debate with a personless automated machine and say, no, it's E.
Screaming at it.
I wasn't screaming, but I was just like, come on, just get a grip. Understand my A.
So you're obviously not Canadian.
I'm not. No, I'm not Canadian.
Because it's A. A. Although that sounded more like a New York gangster mafia.
It sounded like a Fonzie.
So
Anyway,
happy St. Andrew's Day.
Oh yeah, you too.
For the listeners out there, this is going to sound kind of weird because the last podcast that we recorded was only 2 days ago with We Fell in Love. And we said, hey, happy St. Andrew's Day then. But now it's actually St. Andrew's Day today. Did you know this?
I didn't know.
All right, because my lunch is literally a haggis. And I cannot wait. Anyway, we have all things kind of Scottishy. We have Tunnock's tea cakes.
Oh, fabulous.
Now, I was thinking when I picked these up, these are Scottish, right? They're not British.
I think they're very Scottish. They're made
Okay,
quite
that's
locally,
great.
are they not?
Tunnock's.
Are they cool?
I'm pretty sure,
You
yeah.
say that. Is that a place?
Mildingstone, I can't read it properly, but yeah, it's Glasgow postcode.
We've also got some shortbread biscuits. Now, I picked these because I knew, funnily enough, David's getting a lot of mentions on today's podcast. I joked how all Scottish brands use a stag, and on the cover of this box is a stag. So, do you like shortbread?
I do.
I mean,
Only shortbread with stags on it though.
Yeah, of course. They're not stagged shape.
Oh, come on.
I should have pre-opened these. They're all sorry.
Makes it sound so realistic.
There you go.
Yeah.
It does. We also have Iron Brew.
Oh wow, so Scottish.
It is the Scottish, and some whiskey.
Excellent.
We've also got Brewdog if you want Brewdog Punk IPA, but it's in the fridge.
Coffee's good.
We're not
Cool.
going to judge at 11 o'clock in the morning.
No, coffee's
It's
good. Driving kids, all that stuff.
Well, you got 3
actually,
kids.
yeah,
I think
give
a
me the
little
whiskey.
nip of whiskey is absolutely acceptable. I mentioned David from Walnut Wasp in the intro of this episode. The same Walnut Wasp that was in the previous episode of Perspective, talking about branding, as well as the same Walnut Wasp who rebranded your business, Carole-Ann.
Indeed.
How'd that go?
Rubbish. I wouldn't
Wow.
recommend them to anyone. Don't. It's been terrible for business. I've not seen an increase in excellent clients. Couples joking. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, really good.
That video on your About You page is incredible.
Yeah,
That
was.
kicker where you find out it's you talking, like if you know you recognise the voice,
Yeah.
but if you don't know and you're a couple looking at it, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, I was just like thinking, for me, I always sit down at the beginning of the year and just think, right, how much of a budget can I create for stuff that would come under a kind of advertising, marketing, umbrella, and then how can I use that in a kind of clever way? So I try to avoid doing it in a traditional, obvious sense. So, like with the About Me film, I was just like, that is a complete no-brainer because really no one else is doing it, and then it helps you just stand apart a little bit. And then obviously I'm not going to do my own film because that would be silly.
Well, to be honest, I just going off topic, the video when you eventually come into the frame, I loved that shot because you're like, what is this video? I mean, you're on your website, so you obviously do know what the video is, but then you come in, you're like, oh, now it's getting a bit more personal. You're actually getting to see you doing you, and it's a good video.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. I'm really pleased with it. Thanks, David. You did a good job there.
Yeah, well done. You're all right. The reason I brought David up, right, because that was a wee bit off topic there. I want to say, because after listening to Joe Donson's podcast, he posted a story where he mentioned that we didn't talk enough about how talented a photographer Joe is, and Liam. Instead, we just talked all about how great their stories are. So I wanted to just start the podcast by saying that your work is obviously exceptionally good.
I thought we were going to start by talking about Joe and how Joe's work is exceptionally good. Because it is. Like, I think it's incredible.
We didn't talk about her photography because the topic that we were talking about for the podcast was stories.
Do you just not
So
like
that's
her?
why we focused on that.
Yes.
No, she's lovely.
Nah, her work is incredible. Like, it's just out the park stuff, and has been kind of one of my inspirations. But Anyway, sorry.
But yeah.
I'm so bad for sidetracking.
Your work
is
so good.
obviously
Incredible. Like, there's so many photos I've seen of yours that I'm like, that is incredible.
The first one on your website with the bride with the cocktail
festival style.
And
good.
she's like ruffled, and she's not even doesn't even look like she's paying attention. She just looks like she's having fun. And the way you framed it, I just thought, man, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I just think I'm really lucky. I think it was, sorry to go off on, like, you know, sidetrack a little bit, but in terms of the branding, like, it really helped me connect with the kind of couples that I felt comfortable. And when you know how it is, you know, when you're working with a couple who you feel comfortable with, then you just do what you do that comes naturally, and it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
And then stuff like that happens, so it's nice.
Yeah.
It's real.
Definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, your work is incredible.
Yes.
But what we've got you here to talk about is the fusion.
Oh, pressure.
Yes.
Fusion is this, it seems to be the new word that people are using to describe photographers who now offer a video product as a sort of extra. Would you agree?
I would agree.
So
yeah,
what you do Fusion, and you do it really well, like your films are good. What is Fusion in your words? Like, how do you describe it?
I think it's a type of cuisine. Is it not? Like,
no, I think it's a genre of music. It's like a form of jazz, right? Jazz?
Yeah, it's all these things.
It's actually a type of cuisine you eat while listening to jazz, I think, really. And that's what you do when you've had three cups of coffee before 11. I think fusion means nothing. Like, sorry, David, but...
It means nothing.
It means nothing in the sense of it's not a word that couples would relate to.
You're right, though. Like, fusion is an industry term. It's not one that the couples know of. They're not going, I'm going to search for a fusion photographer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, oh gosh, you know, I kind of started to do the moving thingy, filmy thing. To be honest, didn't give it much thought. And I'm kind of one of these people who just act on gut and instinct and don't overthink it. And I put stuff out there before it's probably ready. And I look at like the first kind of film thingy that I did, and I can see so many errors and, you know, issues with it that I would obviously change. But then I think that's part of moving forward, really.
Yes, it is. I mean, our film was awful. You know what? I say awful. It was good for the time, you know.
Context.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about like 8 years ago, or we did our first film. And it was a different time, a different place, and it is what it is. But now, compared to our work, you know. Yeah,
your work's phenomenal.
So everyone starts. Everyone starts somewhere.
In my head, I thought, right, this is how I want my films to kind of look. And then after I produced the first one, I was like, wow, this is totally not how I imagined it to be in my head. And honestly, like, film is so, I knew it would be, but it's so incredibly tough. Like, when you're looking at audio, colour grading, just all the stuff that you do as part of what you do, like, complete and utter respect to you. Because it's just, it's a whole other entity, and I would say it's, in many respects, a completely different enterprise to photography. There are crossovers, but the processes are, to a degree, quite different.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's, obviously, we've got very similar gear. So, you know, the basics of composition and that kind of stuff.
Similar gear as in camera bodies and lenses, but I think beyond that, then, because I've worked with you before, and I mean, I just could not use the kind of kit that you use and marry it alongside the photography. It just would not work at all. It would be, and there's two of you, and so at the moment what I'm trying to figure out is a style that is going to tie in with the photography. Cool. And it's easy to do and switch between the two. But to come back to the question, like, what's fusion? I don't think we've answered that, and I don't really think I have an answer to that, other than it's a short impressionistic wedding film that is very different to what you do. So what do you do?
What do we do? This isn't about us.
But you know, like, I think, like, to get to what fusion is, I think, like, if you define what you do, then I think what I do is very different.
It's films for the adventurous couples.
The enamoured and adventurous.
That's right. God, you know my tagline better than I do. What the?
Ba-boom.
What we offer cannot be the same, because we are a two-man team.
Totally.
With, you know, 2-3 sets of cameras and lenses, and you're the one shooter.
I'm a one lady.
Yeah, so it could never be the same. So don't compare yourself. It could never be comparable.
So how did you get started doing Fusion as a service? Like, what made you decide to start doing films? I know you said it was quite natural, but has filmmaking always been a passion?
No, it hasn't, actually. I found like wedding films a lot more inspiring than actual wedding photography, because I was trying to like tune out to wedding photography. I think I remember Mark Pecura actually saying something like he watched wedding films, or he found wedding films inspiring, and then that was when I started to tune out to wedding photography. And like what like there's some amazing wedding filmmakers out there that are just out the park, and super inspiring. So there was kind of that element, but then never ever thought in a million years I'd start to like dabble in that. And then sorry, name plug again, Walnut Wasp. do you get commission? Is it? So Walnut Wasp were offering this Fusion workshop, and at that point I thought, that would be really interesting. He was doing it, I think, in the April, but I had a baby in the March, and I did actually suggest to David. I thought, David, have you got a space? Maybe I could come along with my baby, and kind of knowing that he probably wouldn't go for that. And he said, I don't know how much you'll get out of that, Carole-Ann, as opposed to saying, Carole-Ann, that's a ridiculous idea. I'm not having a baby. So at that point, I just thought, do you know, I really fancy seeing how this could potentially work or not for me. So I had this is far too much information for you people. However, I had a section with my baby, and I had 6 weeks of recovery time, which was effectively like a holiday when you have preschoolers. So I was like recovering for 6 weeks.
Hear that? Being a mother is like being on holiday.
No, recovering from a section. Because you don't have to like do that much. Because,
I'm kidding.
I know you are.
I felt my wife hit me from Bishop Briggs. Sorry.
So at that point I just kind of sat down and got the books out. Not the actual books, but like the Googling things out, and did a course on Lynda and LYNDA, kind of got to grips with Final Cut Pro and all that stuff, and just decided, you know what, I'm going to go for this. And that's my little story.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I thought you'd been doing it before the workshop was announced.
When was the wedding that we last worked with you?
July 2017.
Was that not like you were only just... I
was really sick that day, yeah. Thinking about that makes me nauseated. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you mentioned video at that point.
Oh, I can't remember.
Guess we did. Anyway, yeah, as well, so, like I said before, I was on your website. It doesn't mention anything about video.
Nope, it doesn't. So what the plan is into early next year, we are going to kind of redesign the website. And
David didn't do a good enough job the first time?
Yeah, I've got someone else. No, of course Walnut Wasp is doing it because they're great and they're really good. They get inside my head. But anyway, we're going to make that more of a central part of the website and really push that. And actually, I've not been pushing the film side of things at the moment because I deliberately wanted a chance to kind of get to grips with it and figure out how it fitted in with the photography and what it meant to me.
Oh no, who is this? Oh, it's Susie Lee! Susie's back from holiday, ladies and gentlemen. This is very exciting. Come on, Susie!
A guest appearance!
Break for hugs.
Oh my goodness. Good effort, Mrs.
Yeah, you know what?
Dior. Nice. I know. You're not slumming it, are you, Susie?
You're really here just for the cakes, aren't you? And you got packages to open. Look, it's like Christmas already.
These are actually gifts. Oh wow.
Wait, they're gifts for us?
No, all for you.
I've read the customs label on it. Some of it's not gifts, surely.
You're so nosy.
Well, no, she said on Facebook.
I know, like spoon.
She said on Facebook that it's gifts for us. So I went and looked. I was like, ooh.
I'm sorry, did you say a sponge and spatula?
It's massive.
You bought a spatula. How big is that spatula? What? It's lovely to have you back. So, you're going to rebrand your website and you're going to focus on the films.
Not rebrand, just kind of refresh.
Rejiggy the website.
Yeah, cool. Totally.
Focus on the films.
Yeah, so just like so just get some content on the website which really push the film side of thing and then articulate exactly what it means to me. Because that's the thing, this fusion thing might mean something else to someone else.
With that in mind, do your clients, have they been confused when you say you do video and they're like, I don't see it on your website?
How does it work at the moment? When or how do you know to mention fusion to them? If somebody has shown a slight interest, when do you let them know that that's something you can do?
A two-part answer. Like last year, what I did was I approached a small number of couples who'd already booked and who I knew didn't have filmmakers booked, because I kind of felt like I didn't want to be potentially taking business away from other filmmakers. So I approached them and was like, look, I'm providing this as an add-on service, this is what it is, and the people who I approached were all totally up for it, which was amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah, really, really pleased about that. And then this year, what I've done is, or for weddings this year who booked it, they've inquired, and then when I've replied, I've said, and this is an awesome add-on service. But the main thing is that I make really, really, really clear is that it's not like a full feature length type film is what you would do. It's really different, and I make that really clear, and make clear that there may be audio, there may not be audio. It's more impressionistic interpretation of the day. The photography is primary. And I've had some couples who've come back and said, yeah, that's great, we'd love to book that. And other people who've said, no, we'd rather have a filmmaker, or no, that's rubbish. No, they've not said it's rubbish, but you know what I mean.
So yeah, as Simon said, has there been any confusion as to what it is? Like when you say it's not a full-fledged film, has there been anybody that's not understood the difference?
Has there been confusion about fusion? Sorry.
Raising the game here with the awesome joke making here.
I'm a dad of 3. You should understand.
I don't have time for jokes in my life. So what's been really helpful is just providing examples and making it really, because I make it really clear it's between 2 and 3 minutes. It may have audio, it may not have audio, and then send some links out. Actually, my fusion films are on my Vimeo site at my Vimeo page at the moment.
Yes, you sent me some of them.
For reference.
Yeah, they're really cool. I think you might, not to be condescending in any way, because your films are very good, but we'll be talking about tips and tricks later, and one of them might be very helpful for you. What has been the toughest thing about getting to grips with video from a photographer's point of view? Because like you said, they are obviously very different. Yeah,
they are so different. Like, oh gosh, sometimes just feel like I've not got the amount of coverage that I would like from the film side of things, because I go into it with like photography head, and I'm, that's my primary focus, and that's what I'm getting paid the bulk of the fee for. And so I think that's been so when it comes to like the post and creating a kind of narrative story, something that kind of makes meaning, sometimes because I feel like I'm lighter in content with the film, that can be the most challenging thing. Do you know what it's like when you're starting out? Just there's so like I'm really open to all the tips that you can give me, because I just feel like there is just such a huge learning curve involved in all of this.
I mean, we still feel like that we don't have enough footage.
Yeah, at the end of a wedding day, Simon's usually driving home going, my God. Oh, do you think we've got enough? Like, do you have enough of this? Do you think we've got enough of that?
Oh, really?
Which is insane, because we have so much footage.
Once
it's
we get
not
to
even
the
real.
Edit, he realises, we've got tons. Like, what was I worrying about? But the next wedding, he still thinks the same. He's like, do we have enough? Do we have enough?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just built in me. I have a little panic, but it makes me feel good, because for some reason, the more nervous I am after a wedding, the more great their wedding film seems to be. There was one where we were in the Secret Herb Garden in Edinburgh, and at the end of the night, people were supposed to be playing games and having some fun stuff and doing all that kind of stuff, and they didn't do anything. They just had their dinner and then had the after dinner I've eaten too much slump, and that made me panic. I was like, how am I going to pull an edit out of this? I'm like, turns out I had so much footage, and they had so much fun throughout the day with the little bits, llamas coming in and family and just having a good time.
Llamas, so hipster.
I know. But the film came out great.
Oh, well, that's reassuring, because I mean, gosh, I'll have so much less coverage than you have then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because so much coverage.
In terms of how do you approach it on the day? Like, obviously, your main focus is the photography.
Yeah.
So, what's your workflow and mindset in terms of when am I going to switch over to video mode, or when am I going to get certain shots?
Like, in all honesty, just when I feel like it.
I
don't have a plan. Like, I'm not one of these people that like hyper plan, and I'm so like just go with my gut and how I kind of feel in the day and the kind of vibe that I'm getting. I mean, generally, very loosely, I'd like something from each bit of the day, whatever that means. The ideal combination for me is a couple who feel really comfortable with, and then just feeling quite nervous because I've not planned things, and that just seems to work really well for me.
Yeah,
with those elements and not overthinking it, because the minute I overthink things, I just find like the spontaneity goes, and then you end up like becoming a slave to that plan, and I don't know, it just doesn't work very well for me. I think other people need to do that. Sorry, I don't mean it like other people. Some people need to do that just for a safety net, but
yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, it could blow up in my face one day, like quite royally, and there goes the end of Harper Scott photo. Goodbye. So, would you like storyline your film at the point of post?
In post, I make the story.
Yeah. So, like, you don't go into filming a day with a kind of plan or a story in mind. You just then pull it out through post.
There's a little plan. So, on the morning of each wedding, and it is the morning of, I try not to let my mind have too much information before a wedding, because then I do get too controlling with wanting stuff. But you know, really, we'll look down at the information, and the key things that I'm looking for is in the question, describe your wedding in 5 words. And if those words are like energetic kind of words, right, then I'm gonna go, right, okay, I'm going to use handheld shooting instead of using a Glycam. Or if they say something like, oh, luxury, romantic, you know, honest, these kind of words, then I'm going to use the Glycam and be more smooth with the way I film and that kind of stuff.
I'm going to steal that from my website, from my contact form. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
It is,
Thanks
right?
for that, Simon.
No, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I mean, well, you don't shoot, because obviously you're doing both on the same day, right? Yeah. You won't have any supporting gear.
No, and that's a point where I have to just accept the circumstances within which I'm filming. I actually find handheld a bit annoying sometimes visually. Like when I'm watching it, I find it quite annoying.
Yeah.
But the glide cam thing, I prefer the look of aesthetically and personally, but it does not suit what I'm doing.
Yeah, it would get in the way of
totally
doing
get
both.
In the way.
Yeah.
And I did try like a little, what are they called?
A gimbal?
No, I didn't go down a gimbal route.
Okay.
But I can't remember.
What does it look like? Is it like a C-shape?
A balancey thing, you know.
Oh,
what are they called?
A Merlin. A Steadicam Merlin?
Steadicam, yeah. I tried the Steadicam. And it was it just got in the way, and then it started to interfere with the kind of stills I wanted to get. So it just didn't work.
So are you using the same sort of body or bodies and lens?
Exactly
to do
the same.
both and just switch over?
Same. 2 cameras, 2 lenses, 2 bodies, 2 lenses, and just switch over. Obviously, I have backups in my bag, but generally don't touch them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so adding extra sort of support gear would hamper the photography, which is the main thing.
Yeah, totally.
So it makes sense to be shooting handheld. But are you using like a harness, or can't remember what you wear?
Yeah, you've got a holdfast kind of style harness, right? With 2 cameras.
Yeah, totally. And I did try, I do try, because I use Fuji and they don't have inbuilt stabilization, and that is a bit frustrating, because then it is super jerky at times. Yeah. So I do try just to balance it against things and just try to get that more steady motion.
Get as many points of contact to your body as you can.
Yeah, like that. Well, I don't know.
Tense up the strap on the camera, all those tricks.
Yeah. And they'll certainly help.
But then I also loads of the kind of accidental things that just happen by virtue of being handheld. So sometimes I have my camera still turned on filming and it's facing the ground, but sometimes get footage I can use. So I would say 80% of what I do is unplanned and accidental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone leaves the record button on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even me when I'm having conversations
No,
with
you
Greg.
don't. You're too professional for that.
Oh no, I do. We haven't not pushed the record button for a very long time, but that was a thing. And so watch out for that.
Okay, yeah.
That's not in the tips and tricks, but
Is it not? Okay.
it should be. Hit the record button. Right, let's go on to editing time. How long does it take you to edit a full wedding gallery in photos?
Do you know, I really can't answer that because the kids are just little time vampires. So, oh gosh, at the moment it's taking me forever. But I mean, in theory, it should, once I get everything in, I generally cull on the wedding day. I'll cull most of it during the meal, and then culling takes me like a couple hours. And then in terms of the edit, probably I could do it in a day quite easily, have everything done and dusted in a day.
All right, okay, cool.
Yeah, film is...
yeah. So then, so we've got
nervous laugh.
That's how long it takes for
You can
photos.
sense the next question.
How long does it take to edit your Fusion film?
I just like 2 hours. Joking.
I was like, what? No
I find
way.
it's so
Can I
easy.
hire you?
It's just like, I don't know what you're moaning about, honestly. It's so easy. No, it takes a lot longer. It takes a lot longer. And because it's new to me, it's like when I started editing weddings at first, it took ages. So I'm sure my workflow will speed up, but definitely, I guess if I didn't have the kids around and was sitting at it, I would probably say like 3 days.
Okay.
For me at the moment, for a kind of 2 to 3 minute impressionistic fusion film.
2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
It takes you 3 days.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, what you do is mega. In terms of the more feature length things, I still make the argument like what we do is very different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us on to probably a great strain of contention within the industry, and why maybe some people don't like the idea of photographers doing fusion. How do you price your fusion add-on?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I guess the idea is that other videographers would see it, or do see it, as undercutting to a certain degree. However, you've just said that you've gone to your past couples who don't have videographers because you don't want to take any clients away from people.
Yeah,
So
and
that's an honourable stance I think most people should have.
I just want to make clear that we don't see it as undercutting. 'Cause
No.
as you keep saying, it's a totally different product. So it's not undercutting. But some people in the industry feel that it undervalues or...
Yeah, which I totally get. And if I were them, I don't know, I would probably see it as it's a different product.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I would think that. Actually, I would probably think, oh yeah, game on. Let me, really show that person what can be done.
Yeah. Let's show couples that they need full-on wedding films rather than a fusion.
Yeah.
They should take it as a challenge, yeah.
But it's just
100%.
like, there's enough couples for us all in the sense of that so I generally find a lot of the couples I would work with generally don't have a film.
Yeah.
And a lot of the couples who are attracted to me and who book me they just don't want a lot of people around. And so that's why what I'm doing really suits them, because they're just like, oh, that's perfect, Carole-Ann. We just want like a couple of minutes. We don't want another person or another couple of people. So I really think like what I'm doing here with the kind of fusion thing is it's a sweet spot in terms of my kind of business and business strategy, if you want to get all fancy about it.
Yeah. And obviously, like, you're saying that the edit takes way longer in proportion to your photos at the moment because it's still new, but do you feel that you're financially rewarded for that? Pricing wise, do you feel that it's beneficial?
I do a small number of weddings a year. Okay, the sweet spot for me is between 12 and 15 weddings. That's what I can manage, and creatively, that's just what feels like it's a creative enterprise before like it becoming too businessy and overwhelming workload wise. So from that point of view, 12 to 15. And so the way I kind of look at the fusion thing is like, well, how can I like enhance my couple's experience by giving them a kind of product that they wouldn't necessarily be adding on if I weren't, offering it. And then secondly, how can I, like, this will sound really calculating, it's not, but how can I kind of maximise the potential financial return, which does sound like really, really calculating, but it's not that.
It's just being efficient with your time. Like, you only, like you said, you only do
so.
12 or whatever it is. You don't want to be booking any more weddings.
No, definitely not.
So yeah, you're gonna put more value into that, so people.
But
can
film
spend
is so
more money.
interesting. Like, film is fascinating, and it says things and does things and conveys a different feel to what photography does.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really enhances the photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Throughout the years, like, we've always said to couples that if they've sort of inquired with us and they're like, oh, you're over budget, we're always like, well, get a videographer. Like, we know we're over budget, but find someone to do something, because it is such a different feeling that it gives after the wedding. That, yeah, so I think Fusion's great for that, because it gives another option to these people who, as you say, weren't going to get something like that.
And I mean, if you're a videographer and you're worried about a 2 to 5 minute film taking business away from you, then I mean, I don't
bigger
think
things to worry about.
You've got bigger things. Bigger things to worry about. Yeah. Make your product better or more unique, or make yourself stand out in the marketplace, or like don't worry. Take it as a challenge, and blow the
Then
socks off your next
similarly,
film.
I've seen, not to mention any names, obviously. I've seen
names. Do it.
Okay, no. I've seen like some films that are filmmakers, videographers, probably videographers really, who are charging probably on par to, or slightly more to what I'm charging, or slightly less than what I'm charging for like a far shorter film.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's not very good. And it's not anywhere near what likes of you guys do.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, raise your game, sort what you're doing out, so.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like, understand the business that you are in. If people are worried about undercutting, like, you're probably charging not enough money for your service. So, push up your pricing.
Yeah, there's that too.
Like,
So how does your post-production workflow go? You said you called almost on the wedding, which is incredible. I've not heard of anybody doing that.
good use of time.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there's someone else who does that I can't think
Eric?
of. I'm sure Jen Owens does.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure she does. Oh yeah, but like that's just a no-brainer. You've got an hour and a half sometimes when you have a meal.
Sometimes
like
longer.
It's like,
you see a
come
lot
on.
of people backing up their stuff then,
Yeah.
but actually culling, that's like,
I do the highlight during the meal.
yeah.
I pull the highlight, and then if I get something amazing in the evening, which actually quite often does likewise, so I have to go back to it. But
Yeah, so when do you start to work on the film as opposed to the photos in post-production?
Oh, so once I've delivered the wedding, the photos, I need to do that first and get my head into the feel of the wedding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that helps me establish the sense of the kind of tone and the motion of it all.
Yeah.
That, and then I would start on the film.
Yeah. All right, cool.
And to see what audio I've got, because I in an ideal world, I'll get some audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we mentioned gear earlier, and you talked about the camera bodies, but what audio gear are you taking, or how are you capturing that?
Well, hang on. Because we're getting more into the how-to of a Fusion, right? We should probably do the ad break.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, forcing it in there without a segue. Now, you will have just listened to Joe Dawson's thing. I don't know if I kept in the edit where I begged her to do the ad read and she said no. Was that in it?
Yes,
Cool.
no, maybe.
Maybe. Well, it's now going to be a thing that we get the guest to do the ad read.
I don't know how I feel about that.
You fancy it?
Try it. I don't think I'll do it very well, but let's try it. Right, so With Jack was built from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Is that too ironic? The read, whether you provide a service like design, development and photography or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack, so you can sign up. That sounds good. Get covered and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service, it's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. be a confident creative. There we go.
Yes, well done. Well done. Thank you.
I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, so I feel like I have internalised this quite well.
You read quite well. I like that little accent.
6 out of 10.
The radio voice accent that you did for the insurance read. So thank you for that. You obviously you're insured, right?
No, don't bother with that. Of course I am.
Well, next time you're due to renew, you should check out with Jack.
Indeed, I will.
I only say that.
Or I shall.
I only say that because other people have found it really cheap, and it covers what they need it. So
Yeah, no, I will look into that.
plus, Ashley is a babe.
Ashley Baxter.
Ashley Baxter. Yeah,
I started following her last night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, she has an Instagram page, doesn't she?
she does.
Yeah.
And a blog. I don't know if she does the blog as much. Thank you for reading that ad read. We're going to go on to talking about making a Fusion video.
Okay.
Cool. Like settings and stuff like... Well, we'll start with settings because I feel like,
Oh, settings. I was thinking you meant like
We're on
settings
a
as in
beach.
physical landscape.
My God.
Oh, great. Settings, like the technical stuff. Auto.
Yeah, because, I mean,
Jokes.
originally I was going to talk about camera gear, but let's face it, if you're shooting Fusion, you're probably shooting with the camera gear that you've already got that usually has a video mode.
Yep.
So all you need to do is just switch that switch over and you're in a different world. We're getting really in-depth here with
It's like beyond me already.
So we're going to hand your camera and ask you to set it up for video.
Right, okay. Boom. Here we go.
So what camera are you shooting?
The Fuji.
And how are you finding that when you switch to video mode?
Like, fine.
Yeah?
It's got like a little toggle at the top. I don't know what other cameras are like because I've been using Fuji since
that's fine.
2013, and before that I was used Canon. But yeah, like, so the Fuji, one of the things I like about Fuji is it's kind of like a really what's the word, like physical experience, so like the buttons
Tactile.
click and everything. Tactile. That'd be it. So you can like literally feel the click. So for example, I'll be looking through the viewfinder, my eyes widen a bit, so I'll go like
Fuji, it's mirrorless, so it
Yes.
must be an EVF that it's got.
Yeah.
Electronic viewfinder.
Yeah.
So you're seeing what you're recording through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Video mode, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a world of difference when you switch to video mode.
Oh, totally.
Because
different.
obviously with video mode, you're dealing with obviously a completely different file.
Yeah.
A type of file. And usually, unlike shooting with photos where you're probably dealing with raw files and you've got that dynamic range, you really don't have that with video. And in general, are you shooting 4K or are you shooting 1080?
4K.
Because you do both, you're shooting with the same cameras, same lenses, and you're probably shooting handheld.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you, like we mentioned before, you've got your... Is that hold fast that you have?
Yeah, hold fast, yeah.
With your two cameras swinging. You crazy loon. So you mentioned...
If only I was as cool as my harness.
Yeah. So even though you're shooting 4K, it's still not the file size, like pixel size of an image.
Yep, agreed.
So what's that been like, getting used to the kind of smaller things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a different beast, isn't it? You definitely don't have the same dynamic range. I mean, I shoot stills in a very... Well, I suppose we all have our own style and our own way of shooting, so generally I would be underexposing by a couple of stops.
Yep.
Yeah.
The stills, and that does... I would usually go a stop, maybe, or it depends, doesn't it? It depends on the kind of context as to whether or not I'm underexposing. Yeah, I mean, you really don't have much room for error before you're starting to lose important detail, and you just can't bring it back in post.
No.
And I think that's probably where it is a lot more challenging. But then again, I just don't overthink it. I'm just like, right, okay, that's how it is, and just quickly adapt to that camera and how it shoots.
Yeah.
And kind of making it work for me.
Does the Fuji, when you switch away from video mode and then switch back, does it maintain the settings?
No.
No.
So you have
every
to,
time
like,
you switch
really
back,
quickly,
you have
yeah.
to get your exposure.
Yeah.
and
Right,
everything.
okay.
Yeah. So that's where I like the Fuji's tactility, and it's just because I'm obviously shooting full manual for both. I like that because you really have to think both times, like what your settings are at, and so that's where I think I don't know. I just think you have to be really comfortable switching between the two and thinking really quickly and being really comfortable with your kit.
Let's talk about settings then. Because the settings, again, are totally different beasts from photographers, for the most part. What you have mentioned is the frame rate you're shooting at. Because obviously photographers don't have frame rates.
Yep.
They do have shutter speed.
Indeed.
And so do we. But frame rate is a little bit different. What frame rate are you?
Oh, I can't remember.
Okay. Cool.
What's your frame rate? Let's chat Brexit.
So for us, if we're shooting something that has audio, it'll be 25 frames per second, which is a standard in sort of the UK and all PAL regions. If it's not got dialogue, so if it's not ceremony or speeches, then we'll shoot probably at 50p. So as we've got the option of slowing it down in post.
And then relating to those things, you kind of need to balance your shutter speed.
Yeah.
Because the reason you shoot at 25 frames per second is so that you have the ability to get the right type of motion blur. But if you don't have your shutter speed set right, then your motion blur is going to look wrong anyway. And
that's where I've made some mistakes in the first few films, is just not getting the shutter speed right and then just messing it up. And you just can't, there's nothing you can do post to sort that out.
No. Once it's done, it's gone. So the general rule is that you shoot with double your frame rate for your shutter speed. So if you're shooting at 25 frames per second, you want to be shooting at a 50th.
Yeah, at least a 50th. So ideally 1/50th, so as it's got the correct amount of motion blur. But if you're not using an ND filter to sort of stop it down, sometimes you have to crank up your shutter speed, but you never want to crank it down because then that's going to look horrible.
Yeah, and I've definitely experienced that on a number of occasions, and that's where like the learning curve's massive, isn't it? Because these things that are super fundamental to you, you're just like, as someone like me who's a newbie to it and just like kind of learning by trial by fire, you just learn these things super quick and then just make sure you don't do them again, basically.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I still get the shutter speed wrong. Like,
I mean, sometimes
I'll tweak to 50, but I'll forget to do the shutter speed sometimes.
But then that's the pace of the wedding day, isn't it? It's just things happen so quickly that you do make mistakes.
Yeah. And obviously, I should say, we're obviously based in Scotland, a PAL region. If you're listening from a region that is NTSC, settings are different. As we discovered when we went to Austin, your heritage for your electricity is different.
Yeah, but the shutter speed rule.
But the shutter speed rule always applies. Yeah. You always want to be double.
Yeah. You mentioned that sometimes you don't like the look of the handheld sort of look, and some of that might come down to the fact that you're shooting at high shutter speed.
Yeah.
And you're handheld, so it's exaggerated a wee bit. But there was one film I watched on your website, and it's quite high pace and sort of fast action. That really worked. Like I like that sort of look for that style of film.
But it suits that style of film. If I was to do something similar-ish to what you're doing, it just would not work at all on any level.
Like we said, if we're slowing down, you'd shoot at 50 to play back at 25 frames per second. That can be very handy if you're shooting handheld. I don't know if you have ever considered that. Just like, because it can take out the noticeability of the jitters and the kind of handheld motion. And another reason is because I haven't planned anything in post, I don't know whether I'm going to be slowing stuff down or speeding things up, but I like the option. So,
and I think actually that's the thing, like I think because I've started doing this year, I would still say like there's so much that I'm figuring out in terms of this kind of stylistic line that I want to be going down. And I think I do like the kind of high, faster paced, faster transitions, snappy handheld things that ties in well with the photography. But it does, in terms of frame rate, it does kind of more limit what you're doing in post, the way that I've been doing it. So, yeah.
So in regards to audio, you capture audio sometimes on the day.
Yeah. You particularly pointed out the sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but then it's about establishing expectations because it comes down to the product, because what you're offering, you generally are offering audio, and that's a very integral part to what you're doing and your final product, whereas mine is what I'm doing is a different kind of a product, and it is the photography is primary.
Yeah.
And so I've got, so I'm using these like little Sony recorders, which I really like, and they're
amazing.
They are so good for under £100. Oh my word, because I've got like the Zoom H1, and I do like that, and I know it's phenomenal and can do great things, but in terms of just quick stuff, it's just the Sony's great.
So how do you decide on the day whether you do record it, or do you always record it and then it's just a case of in post-production deciding?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. I mean, again, it's kind of trial and error and finding your feet. But sometimes, during the ceremony, I'll not put the recorders on the right people and just miss great audio. And sometimes I'm not given the right. Sometimes maybe a bride and groom or whoever forget to tell me a particular reading that's been done that would be awesome for audio. And and again, it's about setting expectations, and my couples are not expecting guaranteed audio. How I word it is, audio may be incorporated, but not guaranteed.
Yeah, because that's one thing that being a 2-shooter full-time video team is beneficial, because it means that before a ceremony, Simon can be getting shots of guests arriving and all that sort of candid stuff. Yeah. While I just go, okay, I'll focus on the audio. And I find everybody who's going to speak during the ceremony, I put a mic on each person. Yeah. Whereas for fusion shooters, there's usually one person. Even if you're a 2-person team, it's still just an extra thing to think about. Yeah. So and you're only miking up 1, maybe 2 people.
Yeah, a couple of people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But those ones are great because the H1s are great. And they have the lapel, obviously, but not everyone has pockets.
Well, these are all the things that I'm discovering with getting into film. It's just like simple things like that. Yeah. Where do you put it if you've not got a pocket?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's where the little clip-on mics are super, and the audio quality is pretty decent, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we've linked them in the show notes.
Oh, have you?
Multiple times, because we're big advocates for them, but I'll do it again if anyone's interested.
So you're using them quite.
We have both.
Yeah. Whereas the audio is sort of not transitional, but we still use the Zoom H1 with a lavalier microphone. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's still the best quality compared to the Sony.
It is definitely far better.
But the Sonys are so close, especially when you do a wee bit of work in post-production, that the convenience of them. Yeah. So we have a bunch of them that we take to most weddings, and it's just like scatter them around everybody who's going to speak.
Yeah, there is one flaw, obviously, and I think you can buy things to put over them, but they're not great in the wind.
Oh my word, no, not at all.
When we have an elopement, it's usually always the lavalier on the chest, and then you've got the dead cat. Which is the fluffy sock that you put over the mic, just so people.
But that's the thing. That's okay. So, for example, if I was doing a windy outdoors ceremony, then I know that I need to be using a lavalier on my Zoom H1 and probably some sort of muffler. But when I get to that point, I'm just like, right. In terms of my decision making process and priorities, I would then say, right, that's going to start to really interfere with my ability to do things, and it would potentially start to compromise the photography. I'm talking about like things being really quick pace and it's only me.
Yeah.
At that point, I probably say, right, maybe I have to like sacrifice the audio, and that's fine because my client, my couple, I don't like using clients. My couples know that. They know that.
Yeah, and again, that's why on a full-fledged wedding where you're maybe in a barn or something, there's no wind, the Sonys are amazing because you can just run up, somebody go,
so good,
just gonna pop this on you, boop, done, and that's it. So yeah.
But then again, that's where it's a different product. Like what we're offering, like it's a different product. It's a slightly different approach. Well, I'd say it's quite a significantly different approach.
Yeah, because we feel we have to get every source of audio.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, I'm not going to get audio today because it's going to be too awkward.
Yeah, I feel, you know.
Well, it's one of my favourite quotes, and I've totally forgotten who it was. It's like David Lynch. It's David Lynch, and he says that film is 50% visuals and 50% audio.
Do agree with that.
And I think even more so for wedding films, audio is more important.
Yeah, I mean the films that I've managed to get really nice audio, it's a game changer, and that would be something I would like to work on for next year. Is trying to increase the amount of usable, good quality audio that I'm getting. So it might, so
Sticking on audio.
Oh, yes.
Your music choices in the films that I've seen has been brilliant. Like upbeat, fast pace, really good. Where are you sourcing that music from? What websites?
I make my own music.
Do you?
No.
You know what? You were about to blow my mind there.
It's like, boom. I quite like Music Bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think your soundtracks are absolutely on point for your brand. And I just think, like, if I was to hear a soundtrack, like a music choice, I'd be like, right, you've got a choice of like 5 filmmakers or whatever. Yeah, Music Bed and what's the other one? Soundstripe.
Soundstripe.
I've got a whole load of favourites that I think, like, when I'm going through, you probably do this, but I'll favourite things I think, that suits the kind of Harper Scott brand.
Yes. I do that all the time.
But then similarly, I'm not like a slave to them. Because like for some weddings, it just doesn't suit my brand. Is it? I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just like, maybe suits a different music choice that wouldn't necessarily be my choice for how my brand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
It's got to suit your sort of overall brand style and the couple sort of thing.
Couple first.
Yeah. I find that really hard.
Uh-huh.
I always go, obviously you said the couple first. I'm always couple first, but I push it as far as I can.
Me too.
Like as far as I can go.
Yeah.
And sometimes, not very often, but there was one occasion where they asked me to change it.
Oh, right.
And I was like, I totally get where you're coming from here. It was a one at King Kilbyre at New Year, Hogmanay. They asked me to change because I had used 2 tracks.
Is that the one with the 2 grooms?
No.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It was Hogmanay, and the first part, so it's 2 different tunes, or I think now it's maybe just the one, but I had one part and then it broke into this kind of drunken, kind of piano-y, vibey song, which I thought, well, everyone's getting drunk, so
yeah.
But they didn't like it, so. You've also got Song Freedom.
Yeah.
Music Bed and Soundstripe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
do you play?
There is other ones, but
yeah,
within those you've got them all.
I think Soundstripe and Music Bed are pretty on point.
Music
really
Bed's always been sort of the top of the industry. More expensive, but it's always been.
But it's worth it to get the right
music.
kind of sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of €50 or whatever it is.
Yeah. So do you pay by track, or are you a subscription?
No, I can't justify. I just pay by track.
Yeah.
Okay. They've only just recently announced the subscription for Music Bed.
Totally worth it for you,
for Music
but
Bed.
not for me at this stage.
So let's talk next about post-production.
Woohoo!
The post-production is going to be where you spend most of your time.
Absolutely.
The value proposition of how much you're charging, that's where you're going to feel that the most.
Oh, yeah.
It's where you're going to feel your life disappearing. Yeah, it's
painful.
It is painful. It is painful.
It's not. It's exciting. It's exciting. The creative opportunity and creating a product that is,
That's true.
Yeah, I think it's quite exciting, but definitely it's where the time is spent.
Yeah. So one of the photographers I was speaking to was Sequoia.
Oh, yeah.
From Mirrorbox. Now, I also was speaking to her at the Glasgow Wedding Collective fair, the one that was in Glasgow. And she mentioned something about her editing. Now, I didn't get much time to chat with her about it.
They do the stop motion films, don't they, as well?
They do, yeah. They're really cool.
Yeah, they're very cool.
So I emailed her, having known that we were going to be talking about fusion, and she asked, when I'm editing photos, I think of the day as a linear but clear progression from the bride preps through to the first dance. But really great videos I've seen cut the day together in a mixed up order. So how do you retain your thinking on that? How do you see the edit before you start making it? So how do you approach your editing? Do you edit like that linearly?
Right, so what I would say is at the moment where I'm at is when I pull all the clips in and I see what I've got, I've got a really short attention span and I get bored super quickly. So if something's too linear, I'm more likely to switch off because it's going to be more predictable, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, but then similarly, if you're mixing it up and making it more cinematic, then visually it has to make sense. Yeah. And there's got to be that kind of storytelling narrative element to it, and that's something, I mean, you could spend a lifetime on and still not establish a style. So I suppose to like address that question, it's a case of like, okay, get the feel of the film with the soundtrack, and then hear what you've got audio wise, and then look at the film clips, and then actually I'll sit and just think about it for a couple of days, just mull it over before I do anything, and just have a little think of what might work, and then start playing about with edits and timelines. And oh my word, I mean, it does take a lot of time. It really does.
Yeah, no, totally. And I suppose there's only so much you can do. Like, obviously, I don't know the length of Sequoia's films. Yeah, so there's only so much storytelling you can do with a 2 to 5 minute, 2 to 6 minute,
2 to 4,
2 to 4 minute
Let's
film.
be specific about this.
you can't go too crazy because to tell a great story, you need the time to be able to do stuff. It really depends on what kind of length.
But then
of
I think that's one of the challenges of doing fusion. And like, I mean, ultimately, I'm a one man. Harper Scott is I. I don't have a second shooter, and all the kind of fusion films I've produced so far, it's all been like solo shooting, both stills and film. And so, like what I said earlier on, I mean, I love that challenge, and I think it's fascinating to try and tease out a film thing from that approach. And some people might say it's completely idiotic and insane, but I find it really fascinating, and I love like the energy of just like all that thinking. But I mean, one of the challenges is just the coverage, like what I was saying before. It's photography first and film seconds, and so it's like then trying to create that kind of narrative out of what you have, and I'm gonna have a lot less than what you have.
100%. You just mentioned your solo shooter. I don't know if like Mirrorbox is a 2-woman team. I don't know if Sequoia does the films when she's not shooting.
Don't know either.
So I'm
Tell
not
us,
entirely
Sequoia.
sure. Yeah, I'd love to know. But yeah, storytelling is such a cool, like, it's so diverse. There's like an endless amount of options. So the way I see films is like from the start to the end, it has to have a crescendo kind of build to the very end.
Yeah.
But throughout there, it needs to kind of rise and fall and rise and fall. And one of my favorite moments that I've just done was the father giving away the bride to the groom. And I spent about 5 minutes telling this little story, and it goes from using abstract shots of like the car coming in, the door handle being pulled open, you're not seeing anything from the bride actually walking down the aisle till the very end, but then it's filled with like the dad seeing her for the first look and his first look. I don't know what that's called. The dad trap, where
I had one.
Then,
yeah, okay.
And then the father-daughter dance, and then like these are like moments of the day that don't make sense until they're like put into this little 5-minute story, and there's just a whole build-up to that given away, and I was just like, yes, I fucking mastered that.
It's like a mini story of the relationship between those two characters. They're people at the wedding, they're guests and family, but they're characters.
And that's where it's fascinating, because you can interpret these things for your couples that they just don't even see as being part of the day, because it's such a whirlwind.
Cool. Let's move on to tips and tricks, if we haven't already said or mentioned them in the podcast before. I can't remember.
Let's do it.
So let's start with one of the issues that comes with handheld shooting. And I did see it in your films.
It's really hard to get it steady enough without it being visually distracting.
It's the jitter movement. It's that micro shake that you get that we talked about with White Balloon as well. Like
less coffee, maybe?
That might help.
Let's be honest, we're not going to do that though.
That's just silly. More coffee.
Whenever I'm shooting handheld, and I do it quite often, I use a neck strap, but I suppose you could use any kind of strap, like your holdfast strap. And what I do is I just put it around my neck and I push the camera out and I make that taut and I tighten it,
But do you not find, because I've tried that and I find that I shake a bit more when it's out like that.
You're maybe pushing too hard.
Maybe I'm pushing like weights.
It's not like, whoa, I'm going to kill your camera. You're just like making it tight.
Burst off my neck.
You're making it tight and you're like, it's so that you're kind of, your hands and your arms kind of, and the strap kind of become one. instead of moving with your hands and your arms, you're moving kind of with your shoulders. Yeah, we're all dancing like crazy people. So that might help get rid of the microgyrs.
Yeah. The other option is if you're using the EVF, you've got multiple points of contact there. So you've got tuck your elbows into your sort of chest. You've got your face on the camera.
Yeah, put your face on the camera.
And hold your breath.
Yeah, be one with the camera.
To the point of not passing out.
Yeah. Another thing with video, shoot abstract.
Oh, what do you mean?
I don't know how... I don't know if you do this in photos. I don't know your composition strategy. But like, Greg is constantly shooting through glass or shooting reflections.
Yeah, I've noticed that with your stuff.
We're shooting kind of through a prism or going behind a tree and shooting behind a bush and using the distortion of the leaves to kind of like be a little bit abstract.
A lot of the times, some of the stuff you're filming, it's not exciting to look at. Like
yeah.
If I'm sort of getting some shots of drink reception stuff, it's not exciting. So I usually try and find a window to shoot through or use the reflection from just to make it a bit more interesting to the brain. So it's like, what's that? Oh.
Like I do it with the photography. Reflections and all the rest of it. But it's just like pushing. It's just then like being confident to translate what you do photography wise and following it into the film without it becoming too much of a thing.
Another tip that we kind of talked about is underexposing. Because our clouds here in Scotland are white. We don't have blue skies. I wish we did have blue skies, but we don't. We've got white skies and they tend to blow out quite a lot. So underexpose. And if your subject is looking too dark, like I've mentioned, just it's that kind of balance between the stuff that you're losing in the clouds.
Yeah, totally.
Then,
yeah.
Our films seem to be quite dark, so perhaps that isn't your style.
I think though people who would be getting into fusion would learn very quickly not to overexpose because you have zero give in your dynamic range, like compared to compared to photography.
I've seen some photographs that are like almost pitch black.
Yeah, and like, you can pull them back by 3 stops
before and after,
right.
I'm like, mind blowing.
Yeah, you cannot do that in filming if you go into that with that head, like, forget it.
God.
Yeah, when you transition to doing some video work, you instantly realise, okay, I have to get the exposure almost right, almost spot on in camera.
Yeah. So a wee bitty underexposed works well for what you're doing.
Yeah. So, like I like to say, it's my inner emo coming out. And I guess the next tip and trick would be, especially if you're shooting 4K, which you probably are at this point, always consider extra memory cards.
Yeah, that's probably been my biggest expense when it's come to getting into fusion, or just like massive cards compared to what I was using before.
Does your camera dual record?
Yeah. No, it doesn't dual record.
Okay, cool. Because I always...
But it has 2 dual, obviously dual for the stills, but it just doesn't dual record.
Like if you made a video file, would it then duplicate onto the second? Right, okay.
No.
That is literally the definition of what dual recording is, Simon. Behave yourself. Oh my god.
Every day is a school day.
Yeah, because I mean that could be very handy if you're a solo shooter. You've got no backup.
Well, yeah.
So I would be flying by the seat of my pants if that was. Anyway, you're so brave.
Or silly.
Well. You say to your couples, expect the film maybe not, maybe some audio.
Maybe I'll give you some audio, maybe you'll get some film, maybe not.
But again, if you lost one file because it got corrupted and wasn't backed up to another card, it's not as critical because it's a shorter product that you're delivering.
I mean, look, in an ideal world that wouldn't happen, but it could. And, I suppose... it would be far worse for me to lose the stills than it would be for the moving image.
Yeah.
And so the risk is reduced because the moving images the stills are dual transferred. But I mean it wouldn't be ideal, let's be honest. But that's what insurance is for.
Yes.
And having good workflow and backing up during the meal and all that stuff. And and then double backing up, black blaze and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for sure, honestly. I mean, you minimise these risks, but you can't let yourself be crippled by fear.
Obviously, we've mentioned a few tips and tricks to help you on your way. Fusioneers.
Fusioneers.
Is there anything that you struggle with that we haven't mentioned?
Oh yeah, colour grading, colour temperature, all that stuff.
Grading, for grading, film convert.
Yeah.
We'll probably sort you out if you want things to look cool.
That's a whole... Colour grading's a whole other beast.
It really is.
Yeah.
But...
Get Tom in to chat about that.
But colour temperature, like, when we're shooting, we go into a room or a location and choose the white balance.
Mm-hmm.
For photography, when you're shooting in RAW, quite often you could just leave it in manual if you wanted, because you can change it later on.
But you can't do that with video.
Video, it's not as easy. If you get it completely wrong, it's going to look bad.
Do you auto? Do you set it to auto? Because I know a lot of people do. Even stills photographers shoot in auto, which kind of blows my mind, actually. Like, the amount of work to make things look consistent must be pretty phenomenal. No? I'd rather much just set one color and be like, if I need to correct it, then it's the same correction for all the photos I've taken in this room, or whatever it is. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, what's your...
I have like kind of semi-auto, so it's a kind of variation of auto, but then I like set that to what look I want. And it seems to be honest, it seems to work well for the film as well, because what I'll do is, depending on, I'd always record, see how it's looking, and then adjust the white balance accordingly.
Yeah.
And I think so far I've been able to get a kind of fairly consistent look with the Fusion films that ties in with the photography, and that's really important, because I don't want the Fusion films to look like an entirely different, have a different look color wise.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think it's working all right so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, for the most part, we're shooting sunny or shooting cloudy.
Yeah.
Or if it's a nighttime, depending on what the venue lights are, then we will dial it in. But usually it's the presets: cloudy, sunny. If it's outdoors, then we'll usually do cloudy. To be honest, just gets a little bit more warmer than daylight.
Yeah, I would tend to go cooler, so I kind of dial it.
Yes, well, your aesthetic kind of.
Yeah, but that's my whole.
So.
Yeah, that's my whole aesthetic choice.
Since we've covered all the tips and tricks, for the most part, how can other people help you do your job? It's a question that we like to ask all our guests.
Yeah, would be really super helpful is the if there's just enough, basically rewire the place and get decent lights in, please.
Oh, not too much. Just rewire your whole venue.
Yeah,
I like that.
Please, no purple uplighters. Thank you very much.
Well, the uplighters and the purple lights in the roof, they are one thing for photographers. They are another thing for video, because when you dim a light or you change color, the frequency changes.
Yeah, I have made that mistake.
you get banding in the footage, and that's that's baked in. Once you've got it, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, because first time I did that, I was like, why are those flickering? What's going on here? And then I realised about the whole light frequency waves thing, and then realised, right, okay, and I didn't use that footage.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming to Glasgow and coming into the office and not eating our tea cakes, but just slowly stroking it because of your diet.
I'm not on a diet. Don't believe in diets. An eating plan for life.
An eating plan. A life diet. Okay.
The body coach, day 37. Just saying.
The body coach. Is that Joe Wick?
Yeah, Joe Wick.
So you've got his. Do you have his book with his?
No, I'm like doing the full-on body coach 90-day challenge. So I mean, it's a step up from the books.
Yeah. Oh right.
It's like what Fusion is to photography.
Man, he loves that coconut oil, don't he?
He does.
He loves that coconut oil.
Does. I wash my hair with it, moisturise myself with it. It's great.
I thought you were looking rather slick today.
I know.
You just slipped right into the office. Right. So, where can people find you?
Just Harper Scott Photo and all of the internetings and Facebookings and Instagram, Bebo, Twitter, all that stuff.
I'm sorry, Bebo?
Joking.
Okay.
It's done.
Okay. I'm just joking. Yeah, and obviously I have been Simon.
I've been Greg. You can find us at Cinemate Films on the socials, Facebook, Instagram. If you've got any questions for future podcasts, drop us a DM. Probably Instagram's best.
Yep, absolutely. Let's do our reviewer shout out, Greg.
It's a nice quick one today. It's from John Clark Photos. He says, I'm loving it, guys. My editing go-to just now. So thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for that lovely review. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit that subscribe button so that you know when the next episode goes online. Seriously, leave a review. That really is a massive help. Or, if you don't want to do that, totally cool, you are still our friend, but just tell one of your friends about the podcast. However,
until next time,
enjoy your life.